please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out on this evening. Can I get a roll call? Roll call.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Adriano?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. We are going to table the reports till next meeting. Can I get a motion on the supervisor's report?
I will make the motion that the town board approve the supervisor's report for the month of April 2017. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the public hearing minutes on zoning from May 24th, 2017, the public hearing minutes from the public assembly permit for 3J Ranch from May 24th, 2017, and the town board meeting minutes from May 10th and May 24th, 2017. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody like to audit the bills?
I will make a motion that the town board approve abstract number 9 dated May 12th, 2017 in the amount of $120,791.95. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And we have another one. I will make a motion that the town board approve abstract number 10 dated May 26th, 2017 in the amount of $147,014.48. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Cook, you're up.
Okay. First tonight, we have a response relative to the public assembly permit request of Green Energy Productions, LLC, with regard to running a wine and food festival at 2597 Route 22 in Patterson. We have a number of responses from the law offices of Lorenzo Angelino, and it covers letter of agreement with Premier Transportation System. It covers our request or an advisement to the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, where they will have the patrols check on the venue from time to time as their duties permit. No commitment to traffic control. And they have excuse me. I guess that's it.
So the short of it, we received an initial application. It was reviewed by the board. Comments were forwarded to the applicant. The applicant has now responded to those comments, and it is back before the board to determine its completeness and to whether we need to schedule a public hearing on it. Sir, you are?
Hi, Lorenzo Angelino here
How
for
are you?
Green Energy. Good.
Good.
The applicant couldn't be here tonight. She actually had surgery yesterday. She's available by phone. I talked to her this afternoon. Oh, sorry. Talked to her this afternoon. She's still a little groggy, but if there's any information, I do have an email actually since I did that response from the MTA. They are going to officially give us authority to promote the use of the MTA parking lot to park. The goal really is to encourage the use of the train to come to the event, and then we have the Premier Transportation Services that's going to be running a shuttle throughout the whole time, going back and forth from the train station. There was another question of an additional parking lot. We have 3 actual satellite lots that, if the board wants, we can move forward with those. They are charging a good amount of funds. I'm not sure if it's necessary because now we have the MTA kind of blessing to use the 200 some parking lots here, or spots. But that's up to the board. Thunder Ridge has presented an offer to have used their parking spots. The flea market, the Patterson flea market, and Acme, we've had or not Acme, by the Dollar Tree. We've had discussions, and they kind of just said use it, but there's no it's difficult to get in touch with the people in charge or something like that. So those are all we could further with those if necessary. The goal was to try to really promote the use of the train to get here.
That's fine, but I will be right up front with you. I am extremely concerned about approving this event with parking. Basically, there's not going to be any parking on the site because there's not that many spaces, and the restaurant doesn't tend to stay open, and there is not a lot of parking in the immediate area, and I'm concerned that people are going to want to go to the event. They're going to get on 22 as close as they can, and they're just going to leave their car on the side of the road, and we're going to have a just absolute traffic nightmare out there. Now, having said that, now you know my concerns. I will tell you, I don't think Acme is necessarily the appropriate place to have overflow parking. I have talked with the owners who weren't aware and were not tremendously supportive of the idea. The flea market is not set up for that use. He's tried to do that before, and we're not going to let that door open up, I'll tell you right now. Thunder Ridge would be absolutely, fine. It's not in close proximity, so again, I still have my original concerns, but Thunder Ridge, they have legitimate parking out there, so I wouldn't have a problem with Thunder Ridge,
Right.
me personally.
And what about the flea market area? How do you feel about that?
I don't like the flea market. The flea market is, we are still struggling with that property owner as far as a site plan. He's not in compliance. We have other issues out on the site. And he has tried on a number of different occasions to use the land, which is basically just a field, for parking, for commercial parking. And it's not set up that way. It's not appropriate. So.
Okay.
So if we give the okay to Thunder Ridge, then you have to amend your agreement with the shuttle service to cover there also, right?
Yeah, they were amenable to doing a shuttle service to whoever where we told them to go.
Right.
So the goal was, like I said, to do the train station, but if they needed to do like a loop between the three sites, hopefully they're gonna promote the use of getting here by train. Like that's the goal.
Right, right.
But if there is necessary, we can go to Thunder Ridge. The cost was a little prohibitive with Thunder Ridge, but if that's our only option.
It may not be your only option.
Okay.
But you should be exploring other options for, commercial parking lot.
Okay. All right.
All right. One of my bigger concerns is having the owner's consent on this. We don't show the owners as who you listed in the application as the owners.
Oh.
We show those as lessees of the property, and we show the Pfisters as the underlying owner.
Right.
Is that not the case?
I think the agreement was with the people that run the golf driving
operate the
range,
golf driving range.
and the restaurant.
Right.
So that's who we've been in contact with the whole time.
Yeah.
They may not be authorized to.
Exactly. And you are not only using the golf driving range, but you are using the Pfisters property.
The analogy is not unlike having the people from Acme or Dollar Tree say, yeah, park all the cars you want in there, but they're not the property owners, they're just leases. So it's really the identical situation.
It is.
And I realize you're a lawyer, you know all that. So why don't you try to reach out to the property owner and just make sure that we can get authorization on this from them.
All right, and my last big concern, I raised it earlier, is traffic control out on 22 while the event's going on. Live security are fine for the interior of the site as long as they're there all day, but that's not going to be sufficient to manage traffic on 22.
Okay.
People coming up and they're going to want to try to pull in and like I said, you have very, very limited parking here, and they're gonna try to keep the restaurant open. You're probably gonna need to have people on 22 directed traffic.
Okay. I know she did reach out to Ethan Allen's staffing, so they are going to be bringing in a lot of staffing and volunteers, but I can definitely make sure that that's a portion of the where the volunteers or staffing will go to is traffic control.
On the issue of other locations for the parking, we have to make sure the certificates of insurance are in good shape as far as if it's the operator's certificate, having the other properties listed as insured locations with reference to the event and to the permit.
Okay.
And then when you get those together, Rich will get them to us for review, and we'll comment on them if we need anything further.
Okay.
I don't, quite frankly, I think at this stage, the overall blanket coverage obtained by the operators, which would suffice if the other locations are listed,
Mhm.
whether we need it from the landowners who are charging you money to be on their properties is something else we'll consider.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Got all this?
Somewhat. Yeah, no, I haven't.
Think you can deal with it in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think, I know the parking, we've already, had a whole bunch of conversations with the different people. Actually, with the parking, that insurance was already in talks. That was part of the thing to have them as an additional insured.
Yeah, they'll want it, but we'll want to be additional insurance.
Okay. All right.
Do we want to set
Okay.
a public hearing for 2 weeks from now? That was the
What would you
question
like to do?
was-
That's the question.
Yeah, let's definitely,
Do we need to do
if
that?
they haven't, we can always,
We're running out of time here.
right. Okay, I'll make them, oh, I'm sorry, Charlie? It's on your agenda, I apologize.
That's all right. So I will make a motion that the town board hold a public hearing with regard to the public assembly permit of Green Energy Productions to hold a wine and food festival at 2597 Route 22 Patterson on, what the hell are these dates again? Hang on.
You're not gonna find the date there, it's just whatever the next.
The
Oh,
dates.
the date of the event,
Date of
I'm
the
sorry.
event,
I thought you were thinking the date of the next
August
town board.
12th and August 13th, 2017. So moved.
Second.
And just to be clear, that's for the next meeting at 7 o'clock or soon
Date?
thereafter.
628.
Or soon thereafter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir.
Good.
Good night.
You as well.
Our next topic is Addison Road, and there are flooding conditions on Addison Road caused by a beaver dam. Located, is this 90-100 Little Pond Road in Patterson. And apparently, this pond, the beavers have set up a homestead, and with all the spring rains and rains in general, the pond is overflowing onto Addison Road, which is a town road. The folks whose this beaver dam is on their property do not wish to take steps to relocate the beavers, nor break up the dam so that the flooding will subside. We have another communique from a person who lives on 8 Delmar, which is on Delmar and Addison, that water is causing great damage to their property. So, I believe and I should say that Mr. Rossi, Hogan Rossi, has sent a letter to the folks, or to their
To them.
lawyers.
I think to them.
To that.
Okay. And, oh, yeah, it's in the city, I'm sorry, yeah. Outlining the problem, et cetera, et cetera. And you have had nothing back from them?
I have had a conversation with the Mattas,
Oh,
subsequent to the attorney,
Okay.
the attorney's letter, because I did call them, I did follow up to ensure that they got it and to see what their response was. And her response to my concerns about Addison Road flooding were less than enthusiastic. And she referred me to Dr. Jim Utter, retired, who is also head of the Frogs. And Jim did come into my office. He is gone right now. He won't be back till the middle of next week. He did say that he will be going out there in the middle of next week to assess the issues. I told him I was fine with that, and we'd be happy to try to work with him if he could find a way to keep the beavers there and reduce the water level. But that this has been an ongoing problem for the town for many years. It has been getting worse every year as the beavers stay there, and every year we have tried to encourage the Mattas to somehow address the issue with the flooding. I mean, we can't have roads that are underwater in the town of Patterson. We can't have properties who have failing septics because the water is, running over their property. And I explained to him that I, for one on the board, was not willing to back off, that if he could find a solution before we implemented a solution, that would be great, and we could, maybe resolve this amicably. But if not, that I was still interested in aggressively pursuing elimination of the beavers in this area. So, how's everybody else feel? What do you want to do?
I agree.
Well, I agree with you, and I think it's relocating them, getting the right process to relocate them to wherever, and I guess breaking up the dam so that the waters recede and the road, a town road, is in whatever you want to call it, passable shape year-round.
The process has a couple of components for us to take, and I think
Is he on the mic?
am I on the mic? I
Oh, you
guess
are
so.
now.
You got to pull it back.
The potential path of least resistance would be to go through, exercise rights under the highway law, to have the highway superintendent be authorized to take steps to do the work after receiving the blessing of the county commissioner of highways. In conjunction with that, there would be a need to obtain a permit from the DEC under a general permit that they have. You may have heard the term used, general permits, before, typically in connection with speedies or discharge from construction sites. But there's a general permit for removal of beavers, but there are some technical requirements that we have to check on to confirm that we're able to take advantage of it. The general permit provides that the dam must be in place for less than 2 years, so we may trigger a more stringent permit review than is warranted under the general permit. And we also have to confirm with them that the provisions of the highway law trump any provisions of the general permit or another permit that require the landowner's consent to the entire activity. So that's where we are, and we're in the process of reviewing it. Like many matters that come before you, it's hoped it could be worked out amicably without us having to spend time to go through these issues. But
What is the
that's where we are.
process if the Putnam County Highway Commissioner refuses his consent, or the DEC refuses the permit?
Well, then, like any permit provision, we make a determination as to the reasonableness, and we can contest their refusals to act as unreasonable and arbitrary, and so there's resort to the courts, I guess, is the way that it would go. But given the severity of the condition, and I think the potential that it could continue on into winter months where it could present even more of a safety concern than it does now, that there certainly seems to be appropriate facts to warrant the county to take action on this. My prognosis maybe is that I don't think we would have a very difficult time getting the county's approval. determining the permit requirements and implementing them, the costs of a DEC process might be another story, so.
Okay?
Yeah, I think we
Yep.
have to.
Okay, then we will
And
move on.
we will continue on that track.
Yes.
Even pending Mr. Utter's response, advice.
Next, we have a conference request from a staff member of our assessor's office to attend a appraisal principles and procedures program at Cornell University, seminar on appraising in Ithaca, New York. So I'll make a motion that the town board approve the conference request form in an amount not to exceed $1,098.50. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
No, I was just doing the numbers. I wanted to make sure I added up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have a waiver of fees. Okay. A letter from Mr. David Harrison, Assistant Scoutmaster for local troop 440, requesting that we waive the $75 fee to use Veterans Park for the troops' year-end potluck dinner for families of the troop. In addition, he's requesting that the use of the pavilion start at 5:30 p.m. Since it's summer and sunset, we will not be until 8:30 p.m. or so, the 20th. We could stay a little after the 7:30 typical closing time in the park. We were glad to do a quick police pickup to leave the park cleaner than we arrived. So, I don't think we've had one from these guys before, or have we?
I think we have.
Really?
They've used the park before.
Okay. Well, it's okay by me.
Well, it's a good use of the park. It's from a good group. They're saying they're gonna, I have no doubt they're gonna keep the park in great shape. The extended hours because of the summer, is that an issue? I'm just thinking we would need to relate that to the park caretaker.
Yes.
But I don't have a problem with them using the park, and if they, for some reason, don't follow through with what they said, then we won't allow them to use the park in the future.
Excellent.
The park board keeps a good tally of those people who use the park that
Correct.
treat it well and those that don't, so that they don't renew those permits. So I'll support this.
Pete?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a good group. I think they'll take care of it.
Why don't you make a motion, we'll find out.
I will make a motion that the town board approve the request from Assistant Scoutmaster David Harrison to use Maple Area Veterans Park on June 20th, waiving the $75 fee and adjusting the hours as requested in his letter of June 5th, 2017. So moved.
Let's see if you get a second.
Second.
You should let them sweat a little bit.
It's the Boy
All in
Scouts.
favor?
Aye.
I think part of the Boy Scouts motto is to leave their area better than it was
Right.
when they got there.
Right.
Tell you, Ed,
I was a
not
Boy
easy. Next, we have
That's
a
funny.
request to approve a lifeguard.
But you're still here.
Sarah Cassidy. So she's got all the good stuff, and so I will make a motion for town board approve
Oh my gosh.
Sarah Cassidy lifeguard position. After she gets all her paperwork in to Sue Brown. That's it, right? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you have the second one?
I have this one about
Avery
Avery Johnson, but,
The problem is we're in dire need of lifeguards out there.
so do the same kind of motion.
Basically, the same kind of motion, subject to her having a positive interview with Brian.
Okay. I will
I'm
make.
sorry? I'm sorry, him having a positive recommendation from Brian subsequent to the interview and submitting all the paperwork, background checks.
The time is of the essence right now with the
Yeah.
swimming season
Yeah.
opening up, so
Okay.
they need, yeah.
Well, this was.
And we can't wait the 2 weeks.
Right.
All right.
So it's
I'll
either
make
that
a
or you're
motion that the
better.
town board. Here. I'll make a motion that the town board approve Avery Johnson, the lifeguard at Veterans Park, based on all the proper paperwork coming in and recommendation from Brian Callahan of the Parks Advisory Board, and that Avery Johnson's rate and, going back a second, Sarah Cassidy be approved per the budget. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, Sean.
Nicely done, Charles. Okay, first item we have is comprehensive plan. This has been in discussions. Councilman Burns is not here tonight, but we've been talking about this for a while, and we have a recommendation from the planning board that we received that in essence says that they have gone through the relevant portions and they would like to kind of jump into this and do some piecemeal work with some representation from the town board and some support from the town offices, because they know there's not money set aside specifically for hiring someone to do the comprehensive plan. So I had said that I would certainly be happy and willing to work with the planning board. I think Kevin had also, although I would certainly confirm, I thought he was willing to be involved in that as well. And so what I will do is reach out to the chairman of the planning board and let them know of our intent to proceed in a pragmatic approach to updating portions of the comprehensive plan. Any thoughts, discussion?
Covers it.
Anybody else want to
I think it's good.
be involved?
We save a lot of money instead of hiring someone. I think the planning board has the expertise and the experience to tweak it, and with you guys on it, and using our town staff to offset any costs as far as making copies and doing research and whatnot. I think it's a good
There's a
idea.
little bit more to this, but we'll wait till I get down to
Well,
my
that's where I was
agenda.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Okay.
So there are some other potential sources of worker bees on this that we'll
Okay.
talk about a little bit later. So the intent, though, I think has been set. It has certainly come up many times at public meetings about where are we with the comprehensive plan, and see we are moving this in a positive direction. Next up, we have an issue that relates, not an issue, but it relates to the new basketball courts over in Putnam Lake, and a neighboring property's desire to put a fence up to screen their property from the court and maybe keep basketballs off their yard. And so we are being asked to consider a waiver of the fees that would be associated with going to the ZBA for a variance on the fence. And so I will make a motion recommending that the town board approve a waiver of the fees to the ZBA fees for 15 Kenton Road for the issues relating to construction of a fence that would need any variances
8-foot
under
fence.
code, an 8-foot fence.
Correct.
How much are we talking about?
We are talking about $175 for an area variance plus the postage, which should be around $20.
And to support this, which the basketball court, I think, is one of the greatest additions we've had, certainly recently over in the Park District. This isn't something that the owner, it's not something that the owner did and now is looking to resolve. It's in response to improvements in the community, but certainly sometimes you have things next to you that you would like to, good fences make good neighbors, I guess. So anyway, so that was the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up, we have Couch Road subdivision. They are moving along nicely with their improvements and stabilization of the site. And so we had previously, about a year ago, done a reduction in the bond amount. We now have, once again, we are able, with the recommendation from the planning board and support from our town offices like building and planning, we are looking to reduce their bond from what was initially a $665,000 bond. A year ago, it was reduced down to $387,000. We are now in a position to support a reduction down to a $164,000 bond. So I'll make a motion that in relation to the Couch Road Subdivision Corp., that the bond reduction to $164,000 be approved. So moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And an interesting topic, and this isn't a whole lot different. There's been a lot of scams, and we hear this a lot through the newspapers. Sometimes our sheriff's department is nice enough to put out an alert. This one comes directly from our friends over at NYSEG. They are saying that they are noticing people are getting calls. When the phone number comes into your house, it'll show up on your call registry as NYSEG with their appropriate phone number. So that's going to fool you, number one. They basically are saying that you're late on your payment and that you need to make payment to the electric company very quickly, within, say, a 45-minute time frame. They will tell you that if you have questions, you can call a specific number, which when you call that number does say you've reached NYSEG. So they set it up very nicely. I guess the message in this is that if you get a call from someone saying you owe something, do your due diligence before making payment, especially when anyone puts such strict time frames on anything. I can tell you that I know someone, a business owner in Mahopac, that fell victim to this same scam 2 years ago, and paid because they actually were late on NYSEG payments, so they knew they were late, and they went and got these payment cards, and I think they were out about $1,000 is what they got scammed for. So please, everyone, be leery of anything that just your gut instinct says it's not right. Please do your due diligence and be aware that there are people that will prey on residents. And so that is all I have.
Just to add to that, being
Yes.
the former crime prevention officer.
Thank you.
Yeah, if no company, no NYSEG or no respectable company will ask for a payment with, I think they call them the green dot cards or the green cards or anything like that. You say, okay, I'll take care of it, hang up, and then look up the number and Google it or look it up in the phone book, the number of that company, in this case NYSEG. Call them and ask them if you owe anything, or and then make payments. Walk-in payments are the best, or if they have your information on file.
And I think to your point, if someone calls and they give you the number to call to verify, go find your own number. Don't use the number because it's already been set up that they're going to be in on it. So.
And it's almost impossible to trace now. They're set up in over in Africa or Europe or wherever, or it's hard to trace. If you call the police, they might file a report, but it's almost impossible to follow up and catch these people.
Yeah. And that is all I have until we get down to other business.
Okay.
Thank you.
First on my agenda is summer intern. Last year, we used a summer intern in the planning department very successfully. Got some projects knocked off. The gentleman's name was Henry O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor is back again this year, seeking to intern again with the town of Patterson. We do pay him a small stipend. It's not a lot of money for him working over the summer. It's more about the experience. And so I would like to introduce this resolution to hire Henry O'Connor as a summer intern for an hourly rate of $10, maximum of $28 a week from June 12th through October.
28 hours.
What'd I say?
$28.
28 hours at a rate of $10 per hour. Sorry. From June 12th through August 22nd. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, and I've already met with Henry and we've already made a little bit of progress. Our intent this year is to use Henry to start revising the comprehensive plan. I've broken it into individual sections, and right now Henry is starting to work on the demographics and community census portion of the comprehensive plan, updating all the numbers, redoing the population projections. After that, he's going to be moving in other areas. I'm also hopeful that he's going to be working on the maps I did the original maps for the comprehensive plan and the GIS system. Last year, Henry is a planning student, and I was very surprised that as planning students, they're not generally offered experience with GIS till their 4th year in the program. And so last year, when he started with the town, he had no GIS experience. By the time he got out of the town, he could run GIS. So this year, when he went back to school, they allowed him to do the 4th year program in his 3rd year because he had the experience. So now he has a lot of GIS experience, and so hopefully I'm going to get him working on some of the mapping as well to update the mapping.
Great.
All right, next on my agenda is an application to the New York State Infrastructure Improvement Act Drinking Water Grant Application. We are looking to put in a grant application for extending a water system over to Front Street so that perhaps we can fill in the last piece of the puzzle and get the 3 lots that are currently vacant out there developed. One of the hang-ups or the hold-ups is the fact that we don't have a community water system in that area. We've had an engineer take a look at the cost of doing the system, and the cost is in the neighborhood of $820,000 to extend it, which is why we're begging New York State to provide that funding. So I'd like to introduce this resolution authorizing the supervisor to apply for the grant. Can I get a second?
Second.
Comments? All in favor?
We were all just so
Aye.
anxious to second it. That's
Okay,
what
moving right along. In the past few years, the governor has kind of forced the hands of most municipalities to be a little bit more cognizant about how they're spending taxpayer money and trying to maintain a stable tax base, but also keeping our taxes down below a 2% tax cap. And so we've been looking at ways that we can ensure that moving forward, we are diligent in ensuring that any expenditures that we have to look at within the budget are appropriate and reasonable. And one of those areas is in response to our fire departments and purchases the fire departments may want to make. And the town board is fairly adamant, I think, at this point, that we need to develop a better partnership with the fire departments about future purchases of equipment and capital expenditures. And not-for-profit law within New York State allows us to adopt certain rules and policies which then are imposed on the fire departments so that we can develop a better spirit of cooperation in looking at what we might need. And I have a resolution here creating a rule that the fire departments would have to then, well, let me just read the rule. Rule number 1, any fire company providing service to the town of Patterson or which receives from the town of Patterson more than 50% of its funding to operate shall not consummate any purchase or lease transaction or incur any debt other than any purchase, lease, or debt specifically provided for in the budget submitted to the town by the fire company by the 1st of September each year, that will require the town to increase its tax rate or its applicable fire company contract fee in order to afford such purchase, lease, or debt without having first obtained the consent of a majority of the town board of the town of Patterson as a prerequisite to obligating the fire company therefor. So, and I think it's appropriate, I think it's necessary that we do this just so that we can have a better management of our town budget. So I would like to introduce this resolution, enter it into the record as read. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I was trying to think of examples that would fit into this. So if outside of budget process, the fire departments decided on their own that they wanted to go purchase something, and the purchase then would cause our next year's budget to have to go above that tax cap. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid, that we've had the discussion with full transparency to, first of all, ensure that the purchase is necessary, that and for these capital projects, that we've budgeted for them over the years, so it's not something that comes out of the something that we weren't anticipating. I mean, vehicle replacement, we know, and that's what we planned for. But this is to avoid there not being a discussion with the town board and then us being left with having to fund it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Some good news. Mary Charteau, who works in the planning department, at my request, had applied for a grant because we've been doing a scanning project in the planning department for many years now, digitizing all of our records. Where we haven't been very successful is that we have a lot of very big plans, and that is quite an expensive proposition to, have a machine or to send them out to have them digitized. So we have been looking for funding to do that, and Mary wrote a grant, and she was successful. So I'd like to thank Mary for all her hard work and success in receiving a local government records management improvement fund in the amount of $17,150, and to let the board know that we will now be looking at buying a digitizer and getting our plans all digitized.
Great.
So, good job, Mary.
Good job, Mary.
Once the records are digitized and stored, do we then need to hold on to those plans in the record center, or can they get shredded?
Most of the records are permanent records. We do destroy a lot of the records that we don't need, but no, they are permanent records. The good news is that we can then get them off-site to alleviate some of the space problems we have in this building, while still having full access to the plans. Somebody would then just view them on a computer screen.
Yeah.
So we could store them off-site at a facility, and we could retrieve them if it was absolutely necessary. It also makes it a lot easier, trust me, we've been doing this for a while, doing FOIL requests, fulfilling FOIL requests, as well as having access to some of our more historic documents at the click of a mouse.
Yeah. No, I use the files that have been digitized through the record center for all the towns that have completed. For some reason, I think Patterson is not one of those towns, unfortunately.
You're talking about the health department records, because
Well,
they're
yeah,
doing
except-
something
yeah.
very similar.
And,
Yeah, so Patterson's last on the
It's-
list.
No, well, Patterson, I think Putt Valley is another town that's not done yet, so we're not, the last. But
Not
it's
yet.
nice when someone has a question to be able to go right into the computer and say, yes, we have this file, now you can send the FOIL request in and we can get you a copy of it. And it's at least someone's not wasting time putting in a FOIL request when there's nothing to be found. But it also does say, large plans exist, but they're not digitized in, so then you have to call over to records, and they're great about getting them to you quickly, but it's kind of archaic in the process. But also, I see when we sign the vouchers for the every 3 months for what we pay the county for storage of files, and so anything we can do to reduce that, by scanning documents in and getting rid of what we certainly don't need to keep as permanent, I think will save us in the long run. So I'm definitely an advocate for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have one item I'd like to add to my agenda, and that is a waiver of zoning fees. We've received a request to waive some zoning fees, so I'd like to add that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Joe Tanzi is here tonight. He flew in from Florida. He had made a request to waive a number of zoning fees. The first set of fees had to do with an application he currently has before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which has not been decided by the board. He had made a request of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special use permit to put a second accessory building on his property. He has since decided not to move forward with that application and intends on withdrawing that application. In the review of his file, it was determined that he already has an existing accessory building on his property, which now needs a special use permit. And there are some issues with the size of the building compared with the principal structure, and therefore he needs an area variance as well. Because both of those, that the building has already been constructed, and the size doesn't meet our current requirements, those fees are automatically double. So he has also submitted a request to waive not only the doubling of the fees, but I believe the fees in their entirety. Have you not?
Correct. The fees, I think, the permit and the
Could you use the
variance
microphone?
together were $1,000.
You're going to need to use the microphone. So, and if you could identify yourself for the record so that we have it when we're doing the minutes.
Hi, my name is Eileen Myers. This is regarding Joseph Tanzi. His request, I believe, is for the $1,000 because this was something from 22 years ago that I guess was omitted and should have been in the file. So basically everything is existing, but that one variance was not gotten. So we're requesting that the $1,000 fee be waived.
I did not put this on
I
the...
was approved 22 years ago.
Right, and the certificate of
I had the COs, I
occupancy,
had
everything.
legit. 22 years later, they're saying to me that the house is too big.
No, they're saying that
Do-
you
Mr.
omitted
Tanzi,
the
Okay,
variance.
so you want to
Tanzi,
just
you have to
take the
come up
mic out
also.
and take the mic over and sit next to Mr. Tanzi, and we can do that, because I know you have problems standing.
That's okay. I can't get it.
22 years ago, I put in to have this building put on this property. It was a modular home. And I went in, I did everything I was supposed to do, got all the permits. 22 years later,
You got the C of O 22 years ago?
22 years ago.
Okay.
They've been to my house I had put on a couple add-ons on my personal home. This is the second home on the property. They came to my house, they inspected everything. Nobody said anything. 22 years go by, because
Well,
I want to,
they found a mistake.
because I want to add the barn that I have on my property. I wanted to make it into a house, because I don't breed horses anymore. And it seems to be, as soon as I opened the door that I wanted to make that barn a house, all of a sudden, they say 22 years later, that I don't have the proper permits. So, at this point, I have tremendous high blood pressure, and I can see what this is going to cause. So I'm going to withdraw my 500, get my 500. I don't want to build a house anymore. I came here when I was a kid, and I commuted for 30 years, okay? And I'm retired, and I have health problems. And it seems to be this town is just given to me.
Town is just
This
what?
town is giving me a hard time.
Oh, giving you a hard time?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I wanted to do something. So I just asked my $500 back. That's all I asked. They never heard it, so they never made any questions on it. So I asked my $500. Plus, they're asking me to do something from 22 years ago for $1,000. That when I did it 22 years ago, I think the permit was like $75, and I paid. So where did I go wrong here? I have to me. I have a CO. I'm legit. I have no problems.
So you're asking, what's the dollar amount of the waiver that you're asking?
Well, they got the $500. You understand that, right?
Yeah, because you're
I
withdrawing
want
an
back my
application.
$500 because they didn't hear the case. I just want. I want to withdraw it because I see there's going to be problems, and I'm going to go through problems. And then now they're telling me for these permits that I do need from 22 years ago, that I got to pay $1,000.
Actually, is it 1,000 or is it 2,000? Is it 1,000 plus doubling of the fees?
No.
It's 500.
It's 500.
Okay.
For each
Wanted to be
permit.
clear.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be
Yeah,
clear.
for each
so-
permit that I got 22 years ago. So I'm confused here. Where did I make the mistake?
So, and I actually thought it was more than $1,000, because it would have been $500 for the special use permit.
So they said they're saying to me,
Oh, wait, wait, wait,
I
wait,
don't know if I'm
wait,
clear,
wait, wait.
they're saying two.
Two for 1,000. So it was 500 and 500.
And then when we get the stuff, they can't tell the difference between 409 and 405. So
And again,
they still can't get it right.
I apologize to everything. I didn't put it on the agenda because typically when there's an application before the ZBA, we get the ZBA's recommendation before we take an action.
But I mean, that's it in a
Bob
nutshell.
McCarthy's.
Yeah, and/or Bob McCarthy's, and I didn't do that.
Right.
I will tell you, my opinion is with the initial application for the accessory building, I don't believe Mr. Tansey qualified for a second accessory building on his property. It was incorrectly directed to go get a special use permit. So my opinion is that we shouldn't have taken that fee in the first place.
And
I don't have the problem waiving that one.
And the second question is that if you knew that I had those problems, why did you ask me for the $500?
That's what he just said.
There's another mistake.
That's
It
what
seems
I
to
just said.
be mistakes after mistakes
Yeah.
after mistakes, but the problem is they're all relying on me. They want me to pay more money on the $1,000, and I'm sick. I'm done. I'm done. That's it.
So what's everybody want to do?
Well, you started to say about the initial 500 because he shouldn't have even applied for that, but you didn't continue the conversation because he
Okay.
interjected, so.
You know, the second part of the issue is the existing accessory building, which I believe, the problem with the existing building is it was constructed more than 1/3 the size of the principal building. Therefore in essence, at the time of construction, it wasn't legal without getting the area variance, because he now needs the area variance, he needs a special use permit as well. So that would have been, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, but a $500 fee for the special use permit plus $175 for the area variance, and then you would have doubled that.
So 675 times 2, okay.
All right, so that's, I'm not sure whether the $1,000
Okay.
fee
That's
is.
what Bob had said.
All right, well,
Okay, all right, so that's not what you've gotten from the zoning board of appeals.
No, we got that from the building inspector.
Okay, all right,
Now-
so then it's probably closer to,
$1,350.
yes.
Right.
But the thing here.
Wait a sec, sir, please, just hang on a second. We understand your position. The reality is, though, regardless of whether we waive fees or not, we are not making a decision for the zoning board.
No,
So
we are not.
we could waive fees, but they could deny your application,
Correct.
which, the fees are one thing, but the process hasn't, normally the zoning board would say, in recognition of your unique situation, that you did everything you believed was correct at the time, you got to see a vote. And quite honestly, sometimes in life things happen where people make mistakes. Hear me out for a second. What happens is, it doesn't preclude somebody from going back and opening back up the books and saying you have to fix this. But in your case, the understanding is that, hey, but I shouldn't have to pay the fee for this. I get that. No, I get it. So I can understand your frustration. I can, because you built something, you got to see a vote. The person in charge at the time maybe didn't do the best job, but in fairness, we all make mistakes. None of us do our job and don't ever make mistakes, probably with whatever you do, yourself included. But now we're wrestling with a situation. My only real question is, what work does the town have to do to effectuate these variances? Because quite often we look at if the building inspector doesn't have to go out and do any plan review.
You don't have to.
If the zoning board doesn't have to go out and do a site walk, they don't? You're saying they don't, or they don't intend to?
The building inspector did come out and he measured the building. It's exactly what it was
Okay.
from the day of 22 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that you didn't, I'm not saying you changed the building.
And the best of the whole thing, the building inspector's the one who put it up.
Okay. But that doesn't
well
mean that.
prior to him being building inspector.
Yeah.
Well prior to
Yeah.
him being building inspector.
Please don't say that in the connotation of some negative, that's not fair.
No.
No, you're saying it like, hey, the guy is now the building inspector and he put the thing up. You got to see a vote 22 years ago. The guy was a contractor. we're just trying now, really, we're getting sidetracked away from whether or not we think that there's sufficient reason for us to waive $1,350. That's really all this comes down to. I'm not saying I think you did anything to cause this at all. We're just trying to process through the information, especially since we don't have a recommendation from anybody. This is just being brought to us. So that's all this is.
So were you getting at the time that the building inspector had to go out so far?
I was just trying to get an assessment of how much money the town has exerted to correct this situation is all, because that's
At this
typically what
point-
we do.
At this point, I don't believe we've spent any money to, review or hear the case. I don't know that the ZBA isn't gonna wanna take a site walk. They generally take a site
They
walk
will.
on every application. There are gonna be costs associated with processing the application. There's been considerable costs in administrative time already. So, we do have that to balance against, substantial justice to the applicant for where we are today.
What do you think, Charlie? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think the doubling of fees one, that we should waive that part, right?
Waive doubling it or waiving the fees totally?
He was just specifically talking about the doubling.
The rest, I think, we gotta wait for the zoning board. Like you say.
Like I said, I don't have a problem waiving the initial application fee on the application that's already been submitted, because I believe it was submitted in error.
And how much is that?
That's the 500, that's a whole nother, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. You want to do these in piecemeal?
Yeah, when we do that.
So for the initial, which he has already paid for the second accessory building, which you were seeking to do, that was the conversion of the horse barn.
Correct.
That you were seeking. We're saying that it sounds like everybody's in support of waiving that, or giving back that fee is really what it is. It's a refund, right? Because he's going to withdraw the application, because you've already paid that fee.
I already paid it.
So we're looking to either get that back, or if this doesn't go fully your way, maybe applying that to some, fees that you
Future
need to
variance.
pay. So, all right, so the first one, correct me if I'm wrong, is a refund of fees that were paid for the second accessory building upon your written notification that you're withdrawing that application, obviously.
Correct.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So now the harder question is the correction
Thank you very
of,
much.
you're welcome, the correction of the special use and area variance, which is the 500 plus the 175, we think, right? And what's your thought process on that, Rich?
Well, I agree with Charlie. I think sitting here tonight without a recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals or from Mr. McCarthy,
Okay.
I'm comfortable with waiving the doubling of the fees,
Okay.
but I'm not comfortable waiving the whole fee at this point.
Okay. Why don't we waive the doubling of the fees, but then hold off on the fees, the initial fees themselves, until we get some recommendations, and we can, so,
We should at least give them that courtesy.
great. I'll second your motion.
Antoinette, that was a motion I just made. Sean seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Okay.
opposed?
So I didn't hear that.
Okay, so what we've done for the application you're gonna have to make, we have waived the doubling of the fees. So the initial application fees are still your obligation. But the fact that it would be 2 times because it's already an existing structure, we made that go away. We're holding waiving the fees entirely until we get a recommendation back either from Bob or the zoning board, which is normally what we do.
Preferably
Or preferably both,
Yeah.
which is normally what we do.
Yeah.
And we can reconsider that at a later date.
So I think you got a pretty fair deal, considering this wasn't even on the agenda. We're reacting to your response tonight, your
Thank you
action.
very- thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry you came up from Florida for this, but,
Okay.
okay, moving on.
Public assembly. Okay.
Yes.
So public assembly permit, this is for 3J, and we have, Joe's here, right?
Joe is
Joe.
here. Joe, are you here alone? You want to come up to the mic? So we have an application for a public assembly permit for the Victory Cup, which we've hosted once before. We have a lot of the information. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I think what is outstanding at this point, because we have not had the public hearing on this yet?
We have not had the
Right.
public hearing on this.
Okay. So, this young man you brought with you, or he came,
Uh,
I'm assuming you didn't come here just to stand next to Joe?
No, of course not. He's
Yeah.
a good-looking guy, though. Joe Bachmeyer. I'm one of the promoters of the event, the
Okay.
Victory Cup. So, any questions about the event? I can
Do you have
answer.
any input into anything that is still outstanding? There's some items
Not
that,
really. I've been communicating back and forth.
Okay.
I received the
You
letter.
received this letter?
Yeah,
right?
I responded to it. I don't have any questions. We've had the event here before at Joe's Farm.
Yes.
Everything went very well. So if you had any questions, I just came to answer them.
Okay.
Joe currently has a public assembly permit for an event this Saturday.
Right.
Yes.
Country and Weston. We're very excited about, having that
That's going to be good.
go on. I think if we take some of the information from that permit plus everything else that's provided, we have substantially a complete application at this point. And
Good.
next step would be a public hearing.
So let's make a motion. Do you guys want a public hearing in 2 weeks?
Whatever you need.
Just kind of a
Yes.
yes, nod, yes. All right, I'll make a
Yes.
motion in the matter of the public assembly permit for the Victory Cup slated for July 15th, that we, 2017, that we hold a public hearing on the application at the next town board meeting on June 28th at 7 o'clock or as soon thereafter as practicable.
Talk to Matt.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
See you in
Thank
2
you.
weeks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Talk about rec center.
All right. The town board has been laboring over employees down at the rec center and providing our rec director with additional full-time help. We have a resolution before us to create a position, and we have an employee who has passed the appropriate civil service exams. However, what I'd like to do is table this till after executive session and talk to Mr. Javaro about the employee in executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Set that aside.
Also, Camp Wilbur Hurlick, I had a conversation with people representing Camp Wilbur Hurlick last week who find it necessary to come before the planning board to obtain site plan approval to tear a building down and put up a new building that's slightly larger and reconfigure their parking lot. And they are interested in, again, having the town waive the fees. Camp Wilbur Hurlick is a not-for-profit organization. But I did not receive the letter from them, so I would like to table this to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Peter?
Okay, first item on my agenda is 6 Xenia Road. We have a letter here from the town supervisor. There was a request to put up a street light on Xenia Road. My first question, though, first is this, it says because the road is dark. Was it a traffic issue, or is it just they want more
Well,
light in the area?
Initially, the application came in looking for the street light because of the darkness on the road. It appeared that it was, related to traffic concerns. But wasn't clear, so I reached back out to the person who had made the request, and today I received a response that it was basically because Xenia Road is a dark road. It's dark because it backs up against the state lands out there. There's not a lot of development in the area. It's a very short, dead-end road, and there's no other streetlights in the area out there. So it's a dark area.
So some concerns, and I think you've actually addressed a lot of them in the memo, is typically, I guess, a street light is to enhance for traffic safety on a roadway, right?
Typically.
Also, too, there aren't any other lights in that area, so we would have to run electric out there.
Well, no, I mean, there's electricity in the
I mean,
area. And there are poles out there.
but as part of the light district, how do they just They just, they meter it, I guess?
No. The way it works with the lighting district is if we request a new light be installed, NYSEG will come in and they will install the type of light that we've requested, the design, whether it's a shoebox, whether it's a Cobra head. Depending on the type of light, whether it's high pressure sodium, metal halide, they have rate service classifications which assume a certain electric usage. So we get billed a flat rate. I didn't get a chance to check into the exact rates that we're paying today, but last year it was $193 and change per light.
Do they do
They
LED
do.
lighting at all, or?
Well, no, not yet. There is currently before the Public Service Commission a proposal to create a new rate classification that would allow them to do LED lighting. You know, it's one of the problems that, you know, the town of Patterson and many communities have. If we start switching over to LED lights, there's going to be a significant savings in electricity, and so
Yeah.
we're anxious to do that. But under the current rate classification system that they have, there's no rate classification for LED, which means, and this is what other communities have done, they literally have to buy all their street lights, and then they can change them out, and then they see a significant savings in their operating costs, but then they're obligated to do all future maintenance on them. We don't have in the town of Patterson the ability to go out, unless Russ wants to expand out, to start maintaining all these streetlights. So, you know, we can't take advantage of the LED street lighting at this point.
And they're brighter and a cleaner light too.
They're much nicer light, whiter light, yes.
Let me ask this, and I'm not questioning anybody, but, I mean, should the safety committee look at this? I mean, is this something that would fall under?
Safety committee usually has to do with the building and the
Okay.
employees within it, not so
Right.
much the safety.
Right.
If you wanted anybody to take a look at it, I would refer it back over to the planning board.
Yeah.
Because, you know, typically when they're doing subdivisions and they're doing site plans, they're also reviewing the street lighting. They have more expertise.
Well, then,
Hence-
why don't we ask them to
Hence
take
the
a look?
memo from the former town planner.
Well, I don't think it would be a bad idea then to ask them to take a look.
Okay, yeah.
You want to refer it over?
Refer to the planning board.
Okay. All right, and we'll do that.
Okay, next item on my agenda is the Garden Road Stormwater Project. We've brought this up in past meetings. I guess the issue is we need to make improvements or do that project on that property. The problem is we can't find who the owner of the property is at this time.
So Don, what do we do?
I'm sorry. I was
Okay.
writing notes about the district and the lighting.
All right, so
Yes.
Gardner Road, we want
Yes.
to do the stormwater project out there. The underlying land is owned by the heirs of the Exmad Corporation who did the original Putnam Lake subdivision. I have since learned, you know, we sent the letter down, the letter came back unopened,
Right.
no such address, no such person.
Doesn't that mean it's approved?
Yeah, it ain't right.
Nobody around did.
I've since reached out to others to find out that, you know, the last partner of the corporation is passed on, and there is no corporation at this point. There's nobody doing anything with the corporation. There are no more heirs. There's nobody to reach out to.
So don't spend any more time trying to find any of them. That is closed. Don't worry about that any longer. What we have is a road that's shown on a filed subdivision map. And by showing the road on the filed subdivision map, there's a continuing offer of dedication to the town of those roads that are shown on the plat. So we could, even though the subdivision plat was filed many years ago, accept that continuing offer of dedication. The issue is, and I believe the answer is, the answer is a good one for us, that once the town accepts the offer of dedication of the strip of land, is the town obligated to open a road on the property, as opposed to simply installing drainage improvements as we would like to at this point. Okay? There doesn't seem to be any case law that is directly on point. We have found cases in the appellate division in the 3rd department, which is not our department, but nonetheless law that's out there in case law, that says that the town does not have an obligation to install a road. So we would be, but nothing on point as to whether it can utilize these strips for other purposes. So we're in a position where we'll have to consider and decide whether to proceed with the acceptance of the offer of dedication, accept, in effect, title to that strip, and then utilize it for a purpose that is less than the opening of an actual road, which some people might want to take advantage of, and use it simply for storm drainage. And we might have no final concrete answer on it, and it might simply be a matter of looking at the case, determining whether it is worth the, in effect, some risk that there could be an issue. But overall, I don't think it's a big risk. It's being done for a public purpose, it's being accepted, and thereafter there'll be no intention or affirmative acts on the town to utilize it for road purposes. And I just can't, we're just in a bit of a gray area as far as case law is concerned.
I need to step out.
Yep.
All right, so where we go?
So what,
Rich often feels that way when I give him legal.
Got him all choked up. Maybe we should follow.
He found your advice hard to swallow.
Really? It's like a bad case of hay fever.
so Rich sent this letter over a month
Yeah,
ago.
there really isn't an issue with the underlying ownership of the road.
Right.
We can accept the offer of dedication at any time. What I want to determine is the extent of any risk that someone could claim that the town's under an obligation to build a road
Right,
there.
especially if it opens up access to certain currently unimproved parcels.
We haven't found anything that says once a town accepts the offer of dedication of an unimproved road,
Right.
that the town has an obligation to build the road.
And there's nothing stopping an unimproved parcel that adjoins this road that's from a subdivision map of proposing to bring it up to town road specs and build a lot if
Correct.
they have sufficient
Because
area for septic and water.
there are a couple of lots that, I don't know the exact extent of development off the strip, okay? But basically, the showing of the paper road on the plat creates an implied easement on the parts of the various lots to utilize that area, okay? Until the road is constructed, obviously, they can't use it. They would have the option to do that. In most cases, the town exercises its right to accept the offer of dedication, as those of you who've been on the planning board know, after the subdivision's been built out,
Sure.
the roads are completed, the town can assess it, Russ reviews it, the town engineer reviews it, and then the town will accept the offer of dedication for the road that's been completed. There really are not that many instances of towns exercising a right to accept a strip of land
Right.
where a road hasn't been built.
Right.
Right.
And it's would be an unusual town that would want to lay out the money to build those roads when there are other options to do it.
And the building of the stormwater practice does not preclude and is not going to be done in an area that would preclude the construction of that roadway in the future. So it's a gain for the area. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a gain for stormwater practices, which we
It's
have to do anyway.
It's in the overall public interest
Yeah.
to do it, but there is, it just can't point to a case or a
Sure.
statute that says you can utilize it completely for other purposes.
Okay.
Would it have to be, if we had to build the road, would it have
Well,
to be?
we wouldn't build the road. See, that's it. It's, as he's saying, if somebody proposed, they would, like any other subdivision, they would build, and they build to town road specs. It
Oh.
gets inspected by Russ and by everybody. Towns are not, typically, they're not going to accept the dedication
Okay.
until they've proven it's built to town road specs.
Right, but the concern is if in accepting the offer of dedication
Right.
of the strip, you then assume an affirmative obligation to build a road.
Right.
Okay, that's the gray area. There are,
Well, if
there
you're
are
wrong, you
cases.
better have a shovel ready, because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna be out there on a.
That's right. But,
Saturday morning.
so there are cases that say there's no obligation on the part of the town to utilize it for a town road until it actually constructs one and takes the steps for it.
Right.
So it's just an unusual situation that it's more, and the other thing that complicates this and why the ownership of the strip and finding the partners of the corporation that used to own the strip would be important, but not determinative, is that once a subdivision map's filed with these kind of notes on it, the owners of all the lots on the map are deemed to be benefited parties. So we can now take title to the strip without anyone really legitimately contesting it. But what their rights would be after that is the issue.
Okay.
So we have a bit of a gray area on it.
So what's our next step to go forward?
Well, I think after the research that we've done, it's a little bit more discussions with Rich as to what his thoughts are from a overall planning perspective and determining
We'll
what.
move on to recreation.
All right,
requests.
next item on my agenda, recreation requests. First, I have a really nice letter from Veronica Roach, who was actually the employee we were talking about for full-time. It's in regards to the Relay for Life. If a lot of you, I know a lot of you were there the past Saturday. It was a great event. Saw Charlie there. I just want to read this letter. I think it's a really nice letter from Veronica Roach to the town board. As you know, this past Saturday, June 10th, was the Patterson Relay for Life at the firehouse. I'd like to make the board aware that the following people represented both the town of Patterson and the Recreation Center at the event. Their sense of dedication and community spirit is applause worthy of and demonstrates what makes our staff so special. Joining director was Laura Marchese, Chris Santos, Teddy Erickson, Jessica Matasino, Marcus Chisa. Should know that, I'm Italian. Patricia Vaughn, Pat Murr, Maya Torres, Denise Opramola, and Denise. Junior staff in attendance includes C.J. Light, Jade Logurcio, Scholar Opramola, Erin Vaughn. A special word of thanks to Megan Florence for not only being at the relay, but for her extra help and creativity with our site setup and coordinating the staff. We, the Rec Center, are glad that the town suggested participating in Relay for Life. We enjoy the opportunity to spend the day together, to contribute to an important cause, and to represent Patterson Rec. We are already planning for next year. So it was really great to see all the rec staff out there, a few town employees out there most of the time setting up and just supporting this cause. I think it was very special. Next, I have a memo here from Dennis Mays regarding the Rec Center air conditioning condenser coil. The air conditioning condenser oil and air handling oil coil in the recreation room at the Patterson Rec Center needs to be replaced. I think this is important to replace it. We were there for the senior lunch. It wasn't too bad, but I know, I'm sure Matt could tell us that it must get hot back there without the air conditioning working properly. And we do have, I guess it's booked for the next couple of weekends for some parties and stuff. We are talking about how we're trying to promote renting it out and promoting the rec center for some revenue. And if we can't have air conditioning and we get a bad reputation, I think that's not good for future business. So I'd like to make a request to approve is it T. Weber?
No, ITC North.
Well,
This is the question.
That's
Well-
a $64 question. Matt, you got any thoughts on this?
The memo.
While you're here?
ITC.
Oh, I see.
GAD Air is the lowest bidder.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt Chabot, Rec Director for the town of Patterson. ITC North is the company that we contract with to handle all the heating and air conditioning needs over at the rec center. Their bid came in, I believe it's $1,200 higher than the lowest bidder. Dennis Mays and I have spoken. He met with that company that was the lowest bidder. Dennis did not feel comfortable with the gentleman who came out to give the proposal. He came out, was very negative regarding other companies and was touting his own horn as typical salesman. The bid was given to us, I think, less than 24 hours after they came out to do this see the site. Basically, Dennis and I felt that since ITC North handles all of our business, is familiar with the system, that we should go with them, even though it was slightly higher than this other bidder.
Thank you. Yeah, I did talk to Dennis today at the senior lunch, and he has a good, the town has a good, and Dennis has a good working relationship with ITC. I guess we've contracted them for servicing in the past as well.
Yes, we have.
They've done a tremendous amount of work for
Yeah.
us in keeping our systems in all the buildings up and running. They actually installed the system in the courthouse. They're a great, great firm. There's no doubt about it. And I would prefer to use ITC. I can't get past the price difference.
Yeah, and my concern, yeah, we are saving
the total
$800,
contract
maybe
price?
going with the lowest bidder,
Yeah. What's the total contract price?
the $12,500.
$1,300 difference.
We might save a little bit of money, but who knows in the long run if it's not we don't know this company. So if we
No.
stick with the company we know, we might, and this time of year with the heat, and I'm sure that of these companies are really busy. They did tell us they can come out right by next week.
ITC North said they can have the carrier ship the product, the big condenser that goes outside, I believe it's 7.5 tons, and the unit inside by next Friday. We did try and contact GAD, I believe, which was the lowest bidder today. Dennis spoke to them. Dennis called me about 5 p.m. saying it would take a minimum of 2 weeks for them to get the parts in. And just so everyone is aware, especially if you were at the luncheon, what we've been doing to cool off that room is we're cranking the AC in the other parts of the building, keeping doors and other things open that we normally would close.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I felt like I was living in an igloo in my office today because it was that cold. I mean, I think, based on without ruining further the other units that we have, that we should, move on this and get it done as quickly as
there was
possible.
and there was also nothing going on in the gym today, so I can imagine if there were open a gym and then we were opening all the doors to cool off the multi-purpose room.
Yes.
Be a little noisy.
This past Sunday, we had a bridal, I believe it was a birthday party in the rec room. We also had adult basketball going on in the gym. It was kind of chaotic, but thankfully everyone got along. We put in the big fans to help blow coolness into the room. It seemed to work, but I don't think that's best policy for business.
So you're telling us that you confirmed that ITC can install the new units much quicker than GAD can?
Yes, we spoke to Chris, and he said he can have it done and installed by next Friday.
Good enough.
It says the other one's 2 weeks out from GAD.
So I'd like to make a motion that we award ITC North to replace the air conditioning condenser and coil, not to exceed $13,000. So moved.
Yeah, if I could, just there's certainly authorization under the procurement policy to accept a bid other than the lowest bid.
Emergency.
Yeah, I think if there's a requirement that the reasons be set out in writing. I think it'd be a matter of just memorializing the statements to confirm. It should be a little bit something more than just reflecting it in the minutes of the meeting. So there is authority for it, and the solicitation of the bid satisfies the requirements of the procurement policy, and the basis of your decision is what's ultimately in the best interest of the town. So certainly can do it.
So pending rights
Based on the installation by whatever a week from Friday's date is, right?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just that simple.
Thank you.
Next item is executive session. I'd like to defer that to the end of the meeting. I also like to add something to my agenda regarding EMS.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Just want to request, I did talk to, so this Saturday is a big fundraiser. I mentioned it at a previous meeting for Deputy Mike Schmidt, who actually is a Patterson resident. His wife teaches in the George Fisher Middle School. He's a deputy with the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, who is suffering from cancer and is going to be going through some stem treatments soon. So we're having a big fundraiser for him this Saturday at the Mission Church in Holmes on Route 52. Part of the fundraiser, we have vendors. They're selling spots to vendors. Selling food, T-shirts, all kinds of stuff. And then the other part of the event, it's a safety day. So it's we're going to have. I arranged to have. We're going to have the Putnam County Sheriff's armored vehicle, fire trucks, boats, ATVs, K9 units, and we thought it would be nice to have our new Patterson ambulance that's really not in service yet. So it'd be great to maybe just bring it over there to show off and to be part of the event and just to show that Patterson's part of the event. I did talk to our EMS coordinator, Denise Montana, and she said she's willing to go over there and bring the ambulance over and stay with it. So I'd like to make a motion to approve that our ambulance would be, it's not really in service yet, but it would be stationed part of the event for the day.
Attend the event.
Attend the event in Holmes at the Mission Church. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That is all I have.
So we have this one budget request. That hasn't been done yet, has it?
Yeah, has that been done? The other thing?
No, I have two other things. Okay, so
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to do it under other business or was this under Kevin's? No.
Thank you, Denise.
Okay, let's do motion to add a budget transfer request to the agenda, please.
Are we under other business?
We are now.
Let's just go for it.
All right. So make a motion to approve a budget transfer number 22 to move from state retirement and Social Security, a total of $381 to the workers' comp insurance expense account. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'd like to bring up just from the Veterans Park Advisory Board, we've had discussions over the last actually year about the potential for dredging the park pond, and the Park Advisory Board Chair, Joe Downey, in consultation with our supervisor, is now looking to find a competent company to come out and do an evaluation of, number one, is it necessary? Number two, what would be the process? And number three, what would be the cost?
Well, what I'm gonna do in the next week or so is I'm going to dust off the old bid specs for when we did it the last time. We're gonna take a look at those.
This was about 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the first thing they need to do, which I've always asked, is to see how much sediment is built up, so we have an idea and whether we're gonna get any benefit out of this.
And so Joe wanted us to bring it up for making sure that he gained the necessary approval to seek that evaluation or that assessment. And so that's why I'm bringing it up tonight.
Is there a cost with it?
Well, and that's what I said, find out, because depending on the cost of the project, the assessment may be part of the bidding or the...
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of when Life Inc. is out there doing a lake treatment, he could drop, say, a sludge nudge or something like that into the lake to check the bottom sediments and see what we have.
And they'll be out there in a couple of days.
No, 28th.
26th, Monday the 26th, yeah. Okay, I'll talk to Joe about that. You know, they just want to keep this project on the forefront because they're hoping maybe this fall might be an appropriate time.
And if not, if that doesn't work, let me know. And I think I still may have a lake core. I've got some other cores that I can drop in.
Okay.
Or we've got a sludge nudge we can use.
What do you call it, a sludge?
Yeah.
Is that what you called it?
It's a tube for measuring the amount of sludge that is in a wastewater treatment plant. We don't use one in the lakes that's been used before.
Okay.
So it's not like we're dropping one in the lake.
So it just draws a sample, just like
Yeah,
a
you
core
just-
sample, but it's only
exactly.
from whatever. Okay. All right.
It's great for mucky bottom areas.
And then, lastly, if under other business, if I could read into the record a very nice letter written by Catherine McLeod. She writes this, she's from Knox Road in Patterson, and she writes this to the supervisor and the town board regarding Russell Goff, the highway supervisor, Margot Miller, the secretary, and the entire highway department crew. Gentlemen, I recently was in need of assistance from the town regarding a dead tree close to my property. From the moment I called the office of the highway supervisor, I was treated with great respect and concern for my problem. An appointment was arranged and Mr. Russell Goff assessed the request and within a week was taken care of with a highly efficient, competent, and courteous crew. I'm overwhelmed with how efficient Mr. Goff and his department responds to requests like mine. I've lived in Patterson for almost 50 years and never realized how fortunate I was to have to be part of such a caring community. Thank you, signed Catherine McLeod. So Russell, to you and your staff, thank you so much for continually making the town of Patterson look so great. So thank you.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
Charlie?
Denise's memo, you gonna do it or?
Either way.
Okay. Another
Russ has to
item.
sign this anyway.
Another item we have is a memo from Denise Montana, our EMS guru, who would like to purchase a fireproof locking cabinet that she is mandated by the state to keep our employee credentials in. She received 3 bids, the lowest bid being from Quill for a total of $1,410, which includes white glove delivery. So I will make a motion that the town board approve the purchase of a fireproof locking cabinet delivered with white gloves at a cost not to exceed $1,410. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Before you make the order, I'd like to talk to you and Dennis about the white gloves.
You know why? Because it weighs 500 pounds.
Yeah.
It won't take it off the truck.
I understand that, but it only weighs 500 pounds.
We can put it on the striker stretcher, right?
Huh?
Can we put it on the striker stretcher?
It'll hold
You know?
500 pounds. Yeah. All right, anyone else? Public recognition. Anybody?
Yes.
Good evening. Pat Ploger. The Piranha Swim Team is welcoming all swimmers in Patterson between the ages of 6 and 16 to join the team. First practice starts Monday, June 26th, and it continues through July with several meets, both at home and at other lakes and swimming facilities. It's a great opportunity for kids to expand their swimming skills, to make new friends, and to get a sense of their competency. It is a very congenial and non-pushy kind of atmosphere. The kids are encouraged and supported, but there is no real pressure to go beyond their limits. So applications are available at the town clerk's office, and so anybody who's interested, please call the town clerk or come in for a visit. Thank you.
Pat, do you have a flyer on that?
Yes, we do have a flyer downstairs,
Okay,
yes.
is it on our website?
I don't know.
Okay,
I didn't put it on our website.
all
I
right.
can
So
do
it's
that.
downstairs?
But
I'll
it
talk to you
is-
tomorrow, we'll get it up there? Okay.
Thank you, yes.
And the rec center's website? Because we all...
To me, I will put it up there.
Okay. We'll get it to you. Mr. Major.
Good evening, Bruce Major, 166 Somerset. First of all, I'd like to thank you for finally moving it to the top of the pile. I'm sure the town attorney is happy about that too, knowing that it will save us some angst in future litigation, knowing that we have a current master plan. So thank you very much. I think that's great. I'd like to also speak to your resolution in reference to the 2 fire departments. I'm glad that resolution was put forward. I would hope that you would look to do a couple other things. Many of you weren't on the board, but during the previous supervisor's tenure, I had the opportunity to address the board once and asked what reports were the fire department submitting. And I looked back 6 years, and once a month on the agenda, it said Fire Department A, Fire Department B, no reports. And it was quite evident for years there were no reports, there were no audits, so there was no accountability. And that's sort of like you have a child, and all of a sudden at 16 he's really becoming a real pain, but you've had no control over him for all that time. I think you're there now with the fire departments. They really have been on their own, in the most part doing a good job, although one fire department did experience a substantial loss due to theft. And I would hope that it's time for your board to sit down with the 2 managing boards of the fire department to create a new dialogue going forward. You know, when I was a little kid, I wanted cowboy boots, I wanted the gun and the hat. That's what I wanted. What I needed was 2 marble notebooks and a lunchbox because I was going to be going to school. And I think you see, it's often with government where we purchase things that we want that we don't, but we really don't need. We have 2 fire departments, we only have 1 fire district. We have both fire departments asking for equipment. There should be some type of oversight, because we only have 1 fire district, to look at those numbers, to make sure that we're not buying equipment that we don't need, that there is proper sharing of that equipment. So I hope that this resolution will move in that direction.
I think it will. And to the issue of the reports, we currently maintain a spreadsheet of all the reports that are required under contract.
I am well aware that you're getting reports. There's now an audit. As a matter of fact, I think the request for the audit may have been the factor in learning about the $1 million theft.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Okay. Now to another note, but I appreciate that, and I think you're moving in the right
Bruce,
direction.
before you get off that, just remember, the reports are quarterly reports. So if
Yes.
something happens to show up on an agenda that says none, they're not due.
And I understand that, and just like sometimes other people's reports are late, I understand that. That's fine, we understand things happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, for 6 years to say
Oh, yeah.
no reports, it was kind of silly. But I think, but that's true in any organization. If you don't have oversight, if you're not supervising your children, when they turn 16, you're going to have a huge problem. I think it's the same thing here. I'm not saying that they're children, I'm just saying it's just the nature of business. But I'd like to go now to another topic. What is the status of the cell tower for Route 164?
The cell tower for 164 is temporarily on hold.
Where are we going with it?
That's not the question you want to ask.
Well, it is part of the question I would like to ask.
What you want to know is why is it on hold, and what is the status of the cell tower that we are evaluating at the landfill?
That I would like to know, because I have spoken to other town board members who didn't seem to know what was going on with it. And so I would like to know what the status is of that cell tower.
This past week, last week, middle of last week, I met with representatives of Verizon Wireless out on the landfill. We looked at a number of different locations. We had some preliminary discussions about design and co-location, and they are currently evaluating what they felt was the primary site. And they're going to get back to me. You know, their RF engineer had to take a look at it to see if it worked. We talked a little bit about the height of the tower, what it might be. And once that's all done, they're gonna get back to me with their RF analysis, their plot coverages, what they feel an appropriate height would be, and other issues relating to co-location. In which case, we'll throw it out to everybody and start having a serious dialogue about it.
That's fine.
I also, relayed to them that at some point, we would be asking them, if this goes forward, to do a balloon test or a crane test, one or the other, so everybody could see what it's gonna.
Well, that's what I was hoping for, because I know a crane or balloon test was done at 164, and I don't believe anyone from the town board participated in that test.
Nope, we did not.
Okay.
We were not asked to, we did not know about it.
Okay, and I think that's unfortunate. One would hope, because I understand that this is going to be a substantially taller pole than what was planned 18 years ago at that site?
I don't recall the height of the one that was planned 18
Well,
years ago.
the one at 18 years ago at the landfill was of a height that would enable an American flag to fly from it.
Right,
Is this anywhere near that height?
probably not.
Is it taller or shorter than the one being considered 164?
It's shorter.
Okay, and will this be looking like the Eiffel Tower with a red light on top of it in the center of a nice pristine, the only pristine
We will
valley in
not be
Putnam County?
putting up any cell towers with red or white lights on top.
Okay, but will it be an erector set, could it be as high as 14 stories?
I don't know, how tall is your building?
Huh?
How tall is your 14 stories?
Well, think about it, 10 feet per story, that's 140 feet.
Yeah,
Well, I would hope, if that's what your plan is, and let's get a balloon or a crane at both locations, and so that the community can see which has the least negative visual impact long-term on the community,
I have
and the
no
assessed
con-
values of the property in the surrounding areas.
I have no control over the land at 164. That was a tower that was proposed by Metro North.
I understand that, but Metro North will be on this tower, will they not?
They will be,
Okay.
eliminating the need for that and perhaps other towers, which is why, as much as I hate cell towers, and I do hate cell towers, I'm willing to consider this, if we can do something.
Well, the other option also can be, because my concern is the visual, not just for me, but you're putting it in the center of a pristine valley of Patterson. I mean, it's going to be seen on 22. It'll probably be seen from areas out here, and it'll also be seen over on 311, if it is as tall as you suggest.
Have you been to Kent Town Hall recently?
I don't go to Kent.
Okay. I would like you to go over to the Kent Town Hall, just drive through the parking lot and look at the cell tower they have over there and give me your opinion of that one.
Excuse me, if you go down the Henry Hudson Parkway by the mobile gas station, as you get on the Hudson, they got the biggest tower that I ever saw, and it looks like a tree.
Right, everybody knows that one.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if they can do that, they can do that.
Well, that tower is substantially lower than 140 feet.
Which one? That one is huge.
The one on the hutch?
On the hutch is
Yeah.
huge.
Take a look at Kent.
I certainly will. Is that up against a mountain, or is that in the center of a valley?
It is not in the center of a valley, it's probably up on top of a hill.
Okay. I will take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last thing.
Sure.
You volunteer every senior lunch to do the cooking, and I would just like to recognize you and thank you for doing that every
It's my
senior
pleasure.
lunch.
Please, no need to thank me. I enjoy it. It's fun. Take care. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Gallagher, Zeppelin Court. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, well, it's all in reference to the water contamination. What water testing are we still waiting on, results?
We are waiting for one last individual who is scheduled for next Monday.
To be,
Yeah.
Okay,
We've-
to be
We've
tested.
got everybody. I sent John an email again this Monday saying, what's going on, where are we? Because I don't actually have anything other than John conveying to me what the results were. I don't have anything on the last 5 or 6 tests that have been done. So I asked John to send those, at least send those on to me, so that we could get moving while we're waiting for the last one.
The rest of the homes that were tested on our street?
What I will say
or
is
the other streets?
what I will say is phase 2. We had a number of homes, 4 or 5 homes, that we were doing as part of that second phase. I don't actually have the well test reports on any of those homes.
Did we just have the result on that spreadsheet that we all looked at our water committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so those were those results.
Those were just something that was, kind of verbally given to me.
That we added
Yeah.
to that, okay. Just this past Friday on June 9th, Peggy Boyle and I were able to meet with Matt Slater and Jamie Sprague from Senator Murphy's office, and we discussed the water contamination issue. And one of the questions that came up was, they know that we've been working on this since September of 2015, and they know that I have been in contact with their office since then. They did say that they have had conversations with the county and with the town of Patterson, but they're still under the impression at this late date that the contamination only affects Peggy and I. And I was
That's
wondering
not
how
the-
that could be possible.
That's not the conversation I had with Senator Murphy's office. The conversation I had with Senator Murphy's office, based on the results that we have seen so far, is that the contamination peaks at your 2 houses, yours and Peggy's and Kenny's, and then as you start moving away, it drops off. You get 3 houses away, and it is significantly less than what it is at your house.
Although there's the issue on 311 and also the issues with some of the public entities in town.
That's true, but
Right, with
I don't
contamination.
necessarily correlate those. I don't look at those as being necessarily part and parcel of your problem. It's part of an overall problem that this community, as well as other communities, have with sodium chloride. either
Which
from
I
water
guess
source.
their question was that they were led to believe that there wasn't contamination anywhere except for our 2 residents, and they were not aware of the problems elsewhere. So they were confused about that. So that's what I was wondering. So you're not looking at the sodium and chloride issue in the hamlet of Patterson as being inclusive, that Peggy and I are part of that, or we're somehow aside from that? That's what...
I'm saying I think your problem is different from the problem that we have here at Town Hall, or the problem I have with the Dorset Howell water system. I think somehow they're probably interrelated in that we have an ongoing problem with both road salt and water softeners within the area. But when I look at the results, and we've had this conversation with Steve Winkley with, New York Rural Water, is that when we look at your results are very, very high, abnormally high at your house and at Peggy's house and at Kenny's house.
And at the town park, though.
And at the town park, they're high, but they're not anywhere near what your levels are. And when you move 4 houses away from you, the levels have dropped off back to normal background sodium and chloride
But then when you go
levels.
to the bottom of the street, they're back up again. You go out onto 311, they're back up again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, I had a conversation also with Nancy Montgomery from Congressman Maloney's office today. And she said, we had a long conversation, but she said, I understand that you, meaning me, have reached out to the New York Rural Water Association. But she said, I would like to know who the town themselves has reached out to for assistance with the problem.
Nobody.
No one. Okay.
No one.
Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Okay. Listen, we're trying to help you out, not because we have any requirement to do so. We're doing it out of a moral obligation. Anyone else? Motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go in executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.